think we'll call our meeting to order.
Okay.
Would you like to call the roll? Oh, is it okay?
Sure.
then?
I'm
we
assuming we must be running with AV, taping it. I'm assuming we're running, so we're good.
Oh, yeah.
We're good?
He says
Oh, we're good.
good.
Okay,
We're
just want to make sure. Okay, Mr.
I
Cole,
pretend that we are no matter what. That's a good
Ms. Zaranen, Ms. Hudson,
I'm here.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Peretti.
Here.
Mr. Robinson. And Mr. Stewart. You have 4 members present, so you have a quorum.
Very good. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. Here we go. Well, our first meeting of 2017. I would say procedurally, the committees have renewal process. When we changed our bylaws last year, or was it last year before?
About 2 years.
So what we did, the bylaws now provide that if the committees haven't been reconstituted, we just carry forward until that's done. I think that's in the works. So I think for our community members, there are some terms that need to be renewed, and President Baker, the treasurer's informed President Baker of that. And so probably we should have that all sorted out by the next meeting. But we thought there were enough issues out there. We wanted to keep them fresh, and so here we are today. So, anything to add to that, Mr. Treasurer?
No, not on
Okay.
that front, no.
Okay, so we do have, our minutes.
Actually, because we had no quorum, it's on the agenda,
Oh.
but there will be our notes from the meeting, but
Oh,
you don't
thank you.
officially adopt them, but we'll include them out on board docs, the conference, it'll all be out there, but they won't really be official minutes.
Of the
so-
last minutes.
Of the
So-
last meeting.
Our
that is correct.
notes from our last meeting. So we will have to work on that, although that was very late, right before the holidays, so. And that was, again, mostly to be happy that we passed the levies. So, does anyone have any comments or amendments to these? Hearing none, do we have enough folks to, we don't?
So,
Oh, yeah, motion?
But you don't need a
Do we don't
motion
have to
because they're
approve
not-
it?
yeah, we don't have any
Oh,
minutes
okay.
to approve.
Okay, sorry, a little dense. Okay, so we will continue on with the monthly financial report.
Okay, this is the monthly financial report for December. The good news is that we continue with revenues running above plan, expenditures under plan. The actual amounts, revenues about $5 million above plan year-to-date, expenditures almost $11 million year-to-date under plan. And again, we tend to be very conservative, so these are in the directions that we prefer. Looking at the breakdown for revenues, the property taxes are unchanged from last month. We are now in the collection period. We're requesting advances, so those will begin to flow this month, next month. Settlements anticipated in March. That the timing of that can move a bit, but that's pretty much the first 3 months of the year we'll be getting advances in. The state revenues, that went up about 1.4 million over last month, above plan up to 3.3 million above plan. No change in other operating, non-operating, no change, and overall revenues up from last month. The variance went up by about 5 million. Again, mostly attributable to the state.
And the non-operating was more about transfers, so not really a true cash flow.
Yeah, it's not, yes, that is correct.
And the others you think are sustainable, or are they just timing?
I think that the way property taxes, well, let me say this. One of my next comments is going to be about updating the plan. I've checked the plan against the most recent forecast, and what I'm going to do for next month is revise the plan to match with the forecast, so that when we look at these variances, we can actually have a more confidence that they are reflecting a change in ending cash balance that impacts the forecast. To the extent that I have less revenue in the plan than what's in the forecast, coming over the plan may not really impact the forecast in the same way. Same with expenditures. So I'm going to realign that mid-year. And that's going to be one of my follow-ups, to see if they are sustainable. And then well, you guys, you can tell me, do you want me to revise the real estate estimate to include the first half collection under the new levy? Just revise the plan to include that, and therefore, being on plan means that the new levy money is coming in as anticipated.
Yeah, I think otherwise, we're looking
Right.
at two sort of old reality and new.
So I'll bring you,
Does that impact your reporting to the state in any way, or are there any implications on your guesses?
no,
It's because we filed.
we
on Saturday.
refiled a forecast.
Modified plan.
We adopted it in December. We refiled it. Now, the interesting thing about it is the forecast only allowed us to put those new dollars down at the very bottom, and the actual cash balances that we manage from are up here and exclude that amount. And so the state, I don't know, they just have us put it down there. For May, I won't do that. I'll bring it up because now it's passed, and for the May one, I'll bring it above the line so it's included. So what I'll do is I'll just do a recasting and pull that up and rework it into the plan, and then I'll show you what the forecast would have said had the levy money been counted above the plan, and then we'll work that into the plan, or above the line, and then we'll work that into the plan so we can see where we are.
Will you be implementing any of the expense investments that, were contemplated by the levy through this
Not in this fiscal year.
So everything will.
Those were
begin for next year.
contemplated all for fiscal 18.
So you'll build a surplus this year, you'll start receiving, and then,
That is absolutely correct.
So we would be reflecting that surplus accurately. I
Right.
think then it'd be important that we make sure we identify that that's to pay for items next year, for hiring, et cetera, we can use it to plan.
Yeah, that's that old cash balance line that
Yep.
has a spike in it, and then it stair steps down. Some investments that were in the permanent improvement and bond issue side will be implemented here in 17. We'll start soon. And I'm going to talk about the bond side of it. But in addition to this first half collection, including the 5.58 mils operating, it does include the half mil permanent improvement. So about 2.2 million should be available in this 6-month period between now and the end of the fiscal year. Okay? Just to look at, that's just the graphical breakdown of revenues by category to show those relationships. And then total revenues month to month, still behaving pretty good against last year. On the expenditure side, breaking down the 10.7 million variance, personnel has climbed 2.2 million over last month. I give you some data in the discussion with the financial report about how that has changed and varied over time. I think this is pretty indicative that the plan did not include that 27th pay. And so when we do this update, I'll make sure that in the forecast, whether or not that, I don't know that that included the 27th pay, but if not, I'll put it in the plan. Then we'll recast the balance from there. But that can be a $15 to $16 million item for that 27th pay that'll occur in June. Non-personnel fell, or I guess you can say it went from about 7.9 or 6.9 million variance last month to 8.1 under plan this month. Again, supplies and materials and purchase services constitute most of that variance. They simply are running under plan. Purchase services and could be in utilities and supplies or fuel. Those are leaders, generally speaking, of ones that run under plan because you want to make sure you have sufficient appropriation available.
Do you think we could break that out a little bit more for the next meeting?
Sure.
I mean, I think we asked about this, earlier, probably in the November meeting of, just to make sure that we are spending money on, things we need, and just to, if it's savings because fuel costs have gone down, or, so that's, savings and because prices have changed. I'm all for that, but just to make sure we distinguish that and it's clear that it's because of cost versus lack of physically making supplies.
Yeah, we've got three numbers to compare. We've got what was appropriated, what was appropriated, what's in the plan, my spending plan, if you will, my month-to-month plan, and then what's actually expended. And over time, one of the things I'll look at occasionally is anybody moving appropriations significantly that would cause my plan not to be reflective of what's really going to happen. I've not witnessed that, so that kind of takes that off the table. But then you just have to look at the items and say, if fuel's leading the way, why? So we can do that.
Yeah.
We've got
So
that
if you
data.
could break that, Scott, do you have thoughts right now, or is that?
No, it's things that we're looking at, because what we've just done is we've put a quarter two reports out, and we're working with our budget manager to go through that. And, fuel, you said, and I know right away that's something that we're spending under what we had forecasted. That's a number that popped in my head real quick. So we're just trying to look at that and seeing how, like Stan was alluding to, those behaviors have changed, to make sure that, as folks go through that, have plans really changed?
Yeah.
Or was it something that was expected to be at much higher cost than what it actually is, so then we've got the savings there. So those are things that we're working through even today. I know the business operations team was going through that piece today, so I've not had a chance to talk to Maurice as a result of that.
Right. Well, it's just, make sure it's not execution, that it's not an execution issue, or something we need to tighten up in the budget process.
Right, yeah. Because what we don't want to happen is somebody go, well, we forgot to order the item, and then they get into the next fiscal year and want to order it, and
Right.
sorry, those funds are now gone, and they've gone back into the general bucket.
Right.
On the community school side, we're climbing closer to being up against the plan. Again, we're going to realign that. I think the plan had a lower number in it, 167 million in the plan. And we have 180 million appropriated. So if we adjust that, we'd be under plan. But here, as I show you in the notes with the financials, the latest data from the Ohio Department of Education shows that we could have a deduct just over 178 million. So we're getting closer to that appropriation number. Again, we don't know. At this point, that should be a pretty good number. We shouldn't get any surprise enrollment numbers after this, but we're very close. But in the right direction. Again, we've appropriated 180. We're at 178 in terms of what ODE says will come out. And again, this will be picked up when I realign the plan. In the notes of the financials, I mentioned the update to monthly payment. We've already discussed that. This is just graphically the breakdown of expenditures by category. And again, month to month seem to be following fairly closely to last year's pattern. And as far as December's report, that's it. Again, revenues are above, expenditures are under. We'll rework the plan, matched up with the October forecast, include the new levy money, and see how that fleshes itself out in the January numbers.
Yeah, I think if you can flesh out those operating numbers, that would be great.
We will.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? Very good. So, motion to approve the report.
So moved.
And a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Okay, so next we have our budget prep calendar. I think Scott will take that away.
Yeah, I'll kind of do the segue from the financials. You know, this is all an ongoing process of what we watch, and This is the year that we're getting into we aren't, the state is, the discussions about the new state biennium that's coming up. Most recently, there's been an article in the newspaper about the discussions, sometimes arguments about school funding and the fact that the cap and the guarantee and the formula will all be a whole nother topic of discussion once again. We don't know where anybody's going to come down, but generally the governor has stated before, I want to get people off the cap, get more onto the formula. I'm not so sure that he is that concerned about the guarantee, because he can't push people up and still hold people at the bottom harmless. But I think the state legislature feels contrary to that. So they'll fight that battle out, but we don't know where it's headed. There has been some talk, we've heard about that apparently state agencies have been asked to prepare a couple of different budget scenarios, one at no increase, the other at a 10% reduction. But no conversation. Our line item is line 550, I think is the right number. There's been no conversation that we know of about that line yet. And our understanding is that the governor's budget should be out by the end of the month, but a bill won't be introduced until sometime in February. So all of that made Scott and I sit down and talk about, well, what do we do? Because this is a big number, and we can't really rely on what's in our October forecast, because now we're beyond that by several months. The state discussion's coming up. And we're both, I'm in the process of rolling things back in the forecast and trying to update that. He's trying to prepare, get everybody ready to do 5-year budgets, and we don't have a real good picture of what that state revenue line could be. And we know that since we put in the forecast 7.5% cap growth, that for every 1% they take out, and we have to assume over the next 4 years just 6.5 instead of 7.5, that could be a $30 to $40 million problem. So the point of this is we know it's coming, we just don't have any good information to work on it, which led to what do we do from a budget timetable.
And there are issues with the House, Senate, and the governor as well. So there could be some competing ideas of what the budget looks like.
So I just hear circus music going on
Absolutely.
in my head right now.
Many months of that.
So what we've talked about is the plan that we've had was for budget managers to come present to FAC in February. What we'd like to do is, since we got through November, so we don't have levy planning work ahead of us, we'd like to kind of postpone that a month, give us a little bit of time. The governor's supposed to put a proposal out, I believe, by the 31st of January. So we're hoping that we'll have a better idea. It's going to keep changing. The target's going to keep moving, but with all that we have going on, I don't want to have them investing so much time in something that we know could change drastically. So we'd like to give them a little extra time to refine that a little bit more. Because any reduction in state funding is obviously going to have a significant impact on our 5-year forecast, and then we've got to be able to adjust just somewhat on our personnel as well as our non-personnel side to look at things differently, so that we can still have a balanced budget for multiple years. So we're thinking, instead of doing a February presentation, come back at the first meeting in March and present to FAC then. What we've passed out, and is also online, if you look at the timeline, the items that are highlighted in yellow are the changes. So you see ones that we did a strike through and moved them from February down into March. But we would still have time in March and then April and May, because we would obviously feed that into the 5-year forecast. We think we've got enough time, and I think we also have April 25th as a tentative, a hold on an additional meeting if we would need that for those presentations. I just want to make sure that our folks have time to adequately prepare for something that we know is coming, but we just don't know what it is yet.
And keep in mind too, in 2 years ago in 15, we were still doing a one-year budget. Now we've got them doing a 5-year budget. So having the best information available, for, if we can build in some time for that. Having the best information available means we can prepare the best 5-year outlook or lookout, as the case may be.
And they've been working on that. And I will tell you, it's weird when I say this out loud, because I know it's weird when I think this. But we had folks asking for the budget files again before school started. They were already thinking about 18 before the kids even walked in the door for FY17. I was like, okay, I'm outside my comfort zone here, because this is not normal. You guys don't ask for it this early. And so they've been looking at this all along. They're having really good conversations with one another, working with the conversations between departments, everything we envisioned when we started changing our process. It's doing exactly what we wanted it to do, that we're working together. So, they're working hard. It's not that they haven't pushed the budget documents. It's not sitting on a shelf. This is part of the conversations we're having ongoing. It's just, they know something's happening downtown. We just don't know what. And I think I want to give them just a little bit more time so they're prepared, so they're not wasting their time or, the time of the committee members coming in and presenting something that very well could change significantly 30 days later.
And concurrently, we'll have, if you can remember back to 15, we did on the revenue side a couple of scenarios. Plus 10, plus 2, plus 5, and I'll want us all to become comfortable with what do we assume about the first 2 years, 18 and 19, and then what do you want to assume about 20 and 21? And I have no magic wand or crystal ball. We just have to decide what's reasonable, what we're all comfortable with. Like the last time we did 7.5 straight out. I'm not wedded to that. And so that'll be another conversation. So while we're working on the budget, the expenditure side, we'll also, and that the state part will be the biggest assumption I think we have to reach a conclusion about. The real estate side is pretty well fixed. All the other stuff, while you can change those assumptions, but that's kind of like spitting in the ocean when you're talking about 30 to $100 million kind of swings that you could experience over a 4-year period. You have to focus on the, what do they say, focus on the donut and not the hole kind of a thing. So that whole conversation about what assumption we all are comfortable with going into the forecast will be best. And we talk to our colleagues around, what are you guys all thinking? And get a consensus of their comfort level as too. So it's going to be an interesting February, March, April time period as we prepare for these future actions.
Well, I'd like to ask, Reggie, Tim, when you've both dealt with similar
Budget
situations, yes, so because of having government revenue streams involved. Thoughts, we've been through this process together now a couple times. So any thoughts from your experience that might be helpful for where the district is right now?
So just a thought off the top of my head is, in the work to support the levy, there were certain, programmatic investments that were being made. And if you were to see dramatic cuts, those may be the first items that you would review from a priority perspective, since they're not baked into your baseline. So, it's doing your scenario planning and then saying, if it goes this far, what kind of things might we focus on from a reduction perspective? That might be an area that you might, from a prioritization perspective, start thinking about if you're not already.
Although I think that also the levy campaign, like that, we learned a lot and learned that those were like top priorities for the community. So we also learned about how the community's thinking about priorities. So I think that could maybe suggest that be instructive.
That inform it.
Yes.
Knowing that, if you're starting to talk about things
Like career
turning lights on
right.
versus aspirational, what's aspirational?
Yes. Well, and I think this year too, we need to be pragmatic.
Yep.
At this point, pragmatic is, I think, the word of the day.
And you got a lot of uncertainty that is probably going to really have us being flexible to whatever turbulence might happen. But I think you're positioned to do well if you don't get a lot of headwind. But if you do, we just got to sit down and sharpen our pencil. But it's a new era, and it's an interesting one for sure.
Well, to piggyback on what Tim was saying, I think by us moving to this multi-year budget plan,
You're well
we are
positioned.
in a
You're
much
right.
better position to look at it, because it's exactly what we've done, is we've looked at those program enhancements over the next 4 years. And we want to preserve that as much as we can without bankrupting the district, obviously.
Yeah.
But maybe we can't do it as fast as we said we wanted to. So maybe what we looked at doing in FY18, maybe we have to move some out in 19, 20, 21, spread it out a little bit more back end and still get to it, but just not be able to get to it as quick, because if the money's not coming, if the revenue's not coming in, we have to do something. But we want to preserve what it was that was the basis for that levy request.
But I think too, you can also widen the lens. I mean, that
Right.
5-year plan allows
Yeah.
for you to look at everything with the wide angle lens. And so we can look at, maybe that issue, that item, for example, was a middle tier priority in the prior budget process. If you bump that up, how do things sort out then? You know, what falls down to a lower tier? And then it reshuffles that deck a little bit. So there may be some other things like, you know, there may be some other programs or issues that we have to think about how to do it in a different way, or seek other strategic alliances with other community partners or something like that.
And I'm sure our superintendent has a position on this, and he will be weighing in the months to come as to how this works.
Yeah, having that critical conversation
Yeah.
about, under different scenarios, which of these we're going to prioritize. You've got a really good roadmap because of the work you did. So.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think we couldn't be in a better, at least we could be better informed right now.
Right.
Yes.
You've done a lot of the work.
Yeah, so I like the cushion that's built in here too, so I think, everybody's been great about being flexible, and so let's just all stay in close touch and see how it's all rolling out over the next couple months.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this issue? Great, well, we love the spring, the budget, so.
There you go.
We all look forward to it.
It's actually, I do, it's informative, and I think now after going through the levy cycle too, I mean, it's exciting, there's a lot to do, so, and a lot going on.
Well, it's in part because we've got really good people doing the hard work.
Yeah. So, anything else, Scott? Okay. So, the bond ratings, so 2 weeks ago, our underwriters and the treasurer arranged for us to meet with the rating agencies, and I'll turn it over, but I participated in the meetings along with the superintendent. The superintendent had another commitment this afternoon. The team did a great job with the presentations, and Stan, maybe you could lay out kind of set the table. We know when we had the downgrade last year, so do you want to take it from there? I don't want to steal the bottom line of the stories there.
Sure. Well, you mentioned a downgrade. That was Fitch, and we have not had them rate a series of bonds for some time. And as we explained back then, they changed their scaling, if you will, their rationale.
My
And
apologies.
that's what they were doing, and
But
it was
when did S&P change, when did they change their view?
to negative. Well, I can't remember when that went negative. It probably went negative, I would suspect, back in 13.
Oh, sorry, so we.
Probably went negative back in
So
13.
we had been a negative outlook with S&P.
Yeah, for a
I'm
while.
sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah. So, what precipitated this was a couple of things. Number one, we passed a bond issue, and we're intending to issue $75 million of the $125 million that was approved. And the rating agencies have not visited the district in some time. They have not met Dan in this capacity yet in person. They have not met me. They've not sat with us and board leadership and had a conversation about district programs and district management and guidance and how we just do things here. and to get a feel for what you can't read in a financial statement. And part of it is, I believe, making the analysts comfortable that, okay, here's what we see in the financials, but who's really making this work, and how do they work together? And in part, you mentioned the word flexibility. How flexible are they, and how willing are they to make the tough decisions? And so our municipal advisor and our underwriter made the arrangements to have them come in and visit with us, as opposed to us going to them, which is much more cost effective, and put together quite a presentation. Mike worked on it. I did some. We pulled data from various data sources. Scott Varner worked on it. Dan worked on it. We employed the speaking capabilities of two of our board members. Mary Jo was there, and President Baker participated. So it went extremely well. And I say that not only how the rating came out, but in terms of at the very end of the presentation. And these are analysts, and when they have it's like 3 or 4 page, here's questions we're going to ask. And we did our presentation, and this presentation lasted for about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half maybe, I think. And at the end of it, we said, well, do you have any other questions? And they all said, both S&P and Moody's, right off the bat, no. You've addressed our concerns. So we knew how to prepare, we were well prepared, and then we presented that and executed that presentation in a fashion that we addressed any of their questions. I think were very impressed with the tour of downtown high school and the programs that are offered there, and what we're doing to outreach and engage the community, and to meet today's needs. I mean, they while they're not educators themselves, again, giving them a feel for what it's like to be in the capital city, a large district in an urban setting with such diverse needs to be met, and how are we doing it. And they were impressed. So going into this, we were AA2 stable with Moody's, and AA negative outlook with S&P, and Moody's confirmed, and S&P improved our outlook from negatives to stable. And I think that is a direct response of one of their key criteria is community support. We demonstrated to them over the past 30 years that out of all the bond issues and operating levies and whatnot that the district asked for, only 2 have failed. We also turned that voting percentage around dramatically. They did recognize that it was a very short period of time between 2013 and now to go from 30-70 accept disapproved to almost 60 something to 40 approved. They noted that turnaround, and so it all worked out well. All of this, I will say theoretically and hopefully practically, will lead to better acceptance in the bond market. Better acceptance is equal to lower interest rates, and we're looking forward to that. But these are out now. They're public. You can take them home, put them on your coffee table, and talk about them on Friday evening during happy hour.
Right.
I think it's great external validation of what we've been experiencing in these meetings.
Yes.
Great work that's being done, and
Yes.
the vision of the district. So
And part
I've
of
been in those meetings, and that's
And part of their review
Great
too, they, we've talked about this committee, and part of the review is, do you have that kind of engagement and involvement and oversight? Here we are, we're doing this work, and we're sharing it as required. But what do we do to get other opinions, and get those insights and feedback, and how do we respond to all of that? And are we, working as a team to manage the district appropriately? And I think that came through loud and clear. They were very pleased. So it'd be great to be upgraded to AAA. In Ohio, there's some structural issues with school finance that make that very, very difficult. So that wasn't necessarily on my radar. but having a stable outlook is always good.
Yeah,
So
that
we're,
was-
we're real pleased.
They were also, they had looked at the website and the financial disclosures that we now have up on the web, and pleased about that. And I think you said there's in the works to have kind of a toolkit for the analysts in the future, so they can
It's like an
sort.
investor relation website. We're
Yeah.
working on that to specifically have it designed for bond investors. And we'll house all of that in
All
one
your
spot.
disclosure requirements.
And,
Yeah.
It'll take care of your disclosure requirements.
It's not intended to, because we still file with Emma, but we will put those disclosures out there as well that they can access. And so if you're a bond investor, an analyst with one of the major funds that wants to review our finances, it'll be a very user-friendly to them. Maybe not user-friendly to the people that aren't, financial, traders and analysts like that, but it'll be very user-friendly so they can go right there and get all the documents they need. And as we post items, they can sign up for alerts. So when we do an Emma filing, they'll get notified of that. As we post, make a change in our, we put a financing schedule out there, or important meetings like, when are these meetings? If they care to know about that and see all that information. So I think it'll be, because it is very targeted to that audience, our anticipation is that it should help with the receptiveness. Once it goes live, which we may do that tomorrow morning, we'll do a blast, I think they said, to over 1,100 different entities that buy bonds. And that will just go out instantaneously. Which could be a very good segue into the last item on the agenda if you don't have any other questions about the ratings. Our bond sale is scheduled for next Tuesday. It is my preference, given my background and experience, to be on the desk, as they say, when we sell bonds. I don't like to talk to traders over the phone. I like to talk to them face to face. Mike and I will go up Mike and I will go up Monday afternoon. We'll have a pre-pricing meeting at 3 p.m. and then probably around 8:30, 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, the order period will open, and we should have a pretty good indication how the sale's going by lunchtime. I would typically stay until the deal is officially closed and we sign the BPA, the bond purchase agreement, but I have a board meeting, I think at 4.
It's
Yeah.
an early one, yeah.
It's at 4, and the State of the District address. So we'll jump in the car as soon as we're pretty sure that deal's, done, and I'll come back for that.
Stan, if you guys need to take care of anything, the priority is to get that done well, so.
Okay, yeah, we
It's
will.
It's an abbreviated board meeting itself.
I know, I was told that since I have my monthly financial report, I was asked, as most of the central office staff asked me to be brief. JC asked me if I just wouldn't speak at all.
Well,
So we may waive
they can
the
help with that,
presentation.
yeah.
And I'll put it out there
But if you
on board
guys
docs.
need to take care of anything,
On your right track.
just take care of it.
Yeah, so, but it's good. I like being on the desk because I like to be able to ask questions that, maybe other issuers do that too. I don't know. But I have a unique perspective because I was on their side of the table for a while. So, I go through numbers and ask things that other folks don't. Not everybody asks them to walk through and prove the arbitrage yield calculation. I do. We do it manually. Because it's all computerized now, and you get, 20 pages of a printout on a bond sale. And I like to ask where that number came from. I don't assume anything. We look at the book of sale to see where we're oversubscribed and undersubscribed, talk about what happens if you reprice, who might walk, who stays in the deal, who the buyers are. We watch the sales as they come in on the screen. It's called iPrio, it's a system. And we're very much engaged. I watch how the co-managers perform, what kind of orders they're putting in. Are they showing up or are they not showing up? So there's more than just, this isn't the days where you just take a number at 9 a.m. and that's it. So we go up and we work the deal from an issuer's side. So
Great. Any questions?
Yeah, just real briefly what the structure of the bonds would be and what kind of indication, what are rates doing currently?
We haven't looked at a scale yet. I haven't. I'm sure the underwriters and MAs have. I heard just the other day that's typically 30 years, mostly serial bonds, but I heard just the other day they added, did you look at it, Mike? They added 2 term bonds at the end. I don't know where they did, but we're going to run it out 30 years. We are considering, in terms of interest rates, just at the macro level, if you recall during the levy campaign when I sat with Bob Weiler and he and I both agreed, borrow as much as you can for as long as you can. But that was balanced off of only wanting to fund about 2.5 to 3 years up front here with the 75 million. But with this in mind, the question now is how do you structure the deal? If these are lower interest rates and 2 to 3 years when we come back to issue the other 50 million, if rates are higher, then would it be beneficial to do this deal a little back-end loaded and do that deal a little bit more front-end loaded? And so we've done scenarios, what if rates move, what if rates don't move? And I think we're of a mind now that we will tend to back-end load this a little bit in anticipation that 2.5 to 3 years from now the rates will be higher. We don't risk a lot if we're wrong in that bet. I shouldn't have said bet. You said bankruptcy earlier, or bankrupt, and I just said bet. 2 words we probably shouldn't
Never
use
say.
in the finance committee meeting.
Never.
But when we analyze that risk, so that's structurally what we're looking at. And we'll cover that at the 3 o'clock meeting
Thanks.
on Monday.
Okay, good. Other questions?
This is the
Great.
stuff I look forward to.
I know
Well,
it. I know it.
Not the budget isn't fun, but this is, because you can tweak it and save a lot of money, a lot of money. If we, you could do things like shorten it,
Well,
you could restructure, it's just, it's really
We look forward
exciting.
at the next meeting to hearing
Yes.
how much you've saved and what you, like that blow by blow.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
Good,
So that's what we're doing. We'll be done Tuesday, and
good.
we'll get the money in-house first part of February. And I think at some point, we'll bring you an appropriation resolution adjustment so that Maurice and his shop can
Yes.
begin to
Start their
repair
work.
and replace and
Yes.
And it sits in
upgrade.
a bond construction fund until the funds are actually expended, so you get to manage the interest on it.
Mhm.
So in between items 6 and 7 on the agenda, item 6.5 is other. I just wanted to take just 2 minutes, maybe 3. On our meeting in December, we had a small contingent here. Reggie and I worked hard, but we did go through, one of the things we talked about is post-levy. How are we going to update on the repair and replace efforts? We did see a preview of that. Stan, maybe we could at the next meeting, kind of show everybody what that looks like. I should have had that on here, and my bad to forget that. There's an interactive tool for the web that is very easy to understand. There's little icons for each type of repair, replace, and so that, and each facility, so, but then in addition, what we talked about and have asked is, really using this as an opportunity to put together what we've talked about previously as a capital financial statement, capital financial report, to and use this also as a capital budget. So, and then identifying expenses by facility and so that we have some better idea of what it's costing us by facility.
And we're gonna have some overlay then, right? So we will have like some GRF dollars, regular fund dollars that will flow into the
Well,
facilities,
but
correct?
so we can
we'd be able to see that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think so, and then
Okay.
certainly so that the administration has, I think, a deeper planning tool
Mhm.
for facility operations, and so there's transparency to the board and the public, and, as a finance committee, we can look at that as well. So I think so we also, what we looked at as sort of a sampling, there are several surplus properties that remain to go in front of the board to authorize to get them out to sale. A few have already gone. So they put together a little spreadsheet, and there's just a reference to it, but it's not on here. So maybe we can, those should be out, but the board, that went to the board has seen that, so we're moving that along, and there will be and several properties that'll, and really what that does is, as I understand it, it takes us down to all of the properties that are inactive.
Yep.
That don't have, that aren't targeted for immediate swing space use, that sort of thing, they're gonna be out there and available for sale. And so, you know, and it will show the board what that, and we talked about that in Levy Millage, and that was built into the levy plan. So that should be in front of the board in the 7th, which is the first meeting after.
First week in February, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that, I don't set the agenda, but that's my understanding. But, so I think at the next meeting, what I'd ask Stan is that maybe we do an update for the finance committee on that, you know, the status of those surplus sales, and then the status of putting this capital, plan, you know, the capital financial report together. What that, and then the little, and then the kind of the more scorecard, yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of the more community report on status, what that's gonna look like, just so everybody can see that. I know they said afterwards when we got done, and that was the 19th of December.
Right.
So they were just talking about it, and so Reggie had a lot of great comments and feedback, and so we used the time really well and had a good discussion. So Maurice and his team were taking that back and said they need a little time to do that, and that's still new for the
But
district.
Since you didn't
so.
have a quorum, it really didn't happen.
Which is exactly
That
why,
is it.
we just ignored it and didn't do anything about it
So
until
that's why-
now.
That's why I think I'd like to see, I think we should see it at the next meeting, so it really does. So that's all I have for item 6.5. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
That was a
Okay,
good
No,
one.
it was great.
okay. So I think with that, is there anything else, the item 6 3/4? Okay, otherwise, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank you.
adjusting your schedules, and appreciate it.